All right, for this lesson today, we are going to be talking about image grammar. Please go ahead and go to your writer's notebook. Please turn to a blank page. Write down image grammar at the top and then write down today's date. What I'd like for you to do first is I'd like you to paraphrase the following quote. It says, an amateur writer tells a story, a pro shows the story, creates a picture to look at instead of just words to read. A good author writes with a camera, not with a pen. This was written by novelist Robert Newton Peck. Please go ahead and take a minute to think about what he is trying to say and jot down your thoughts in your writer's notebook. Please start the video again once you've done that. What Peck is trying to tell us is that we shouldn't just tell about our story. Instead, we should really show that we need to give our readers a picture. We also need to pretend that we're writing with the camera, that they can really see what's going on, and we're not just giving them a bunch of words. So today we're going to focus on how do we really show and not tell. What I would like for you to do is I'd like for you in your writer's notebook to go ahead and write one sentence about this cat. When you've done that, please start this video again. All right, today we are going to talk about image grammar and the different types of brushstrokes that go along with image grammar. So please go ahead in your writer's notebook underneath your sentence about a cat. I would like for you to write brushstroke 1. Here is a rather boring sentence. It says, the diamond-scaled snakes attacked their prey. Not really too much going on in this sentence. When I apply the first brushstroke to this sentence, it will look like this. Hissing, slithering, and coiling, the diamond-scaled snakes attacked their prey. So what does this brushstroke add to our sentence? Here, this brushstroke is giving actions that the snake can do and adding them to the beginning of the sentence to describe what the snake is actually doing. We know the snakes are hissing, we know the snakes are slithering, and we also know the snakes are coiling. So what I'd like for you to do right now is in your writer's notebook underneath brushstroke 1, I'd like for you to rewrite your sentence that you originally wrote about the cat, and I'd like you to apply brushstroke 1 to that sentence. If you look below the line, you're going to see the examples of brushstroke 1 from the previous slide. I also added a second one. This one just takes one particular action of the snake and kind of combines it together. And actually it takes two. So it says, hissing their forked red tongues and coiling their cold bodies, the diamond-scaled snakes attacked their prey. Go ahead and rewrite your sentence using brushstroke 1, and once you've done that, please start the video again. All right, here are examples of brushstroke 1 with our cat sentence. Stalking, pouncing, preying, the cat attacked its prey. Here's another example, flattening its ears, opening its mouth wide, baring its sharp teeth. The cat acted as though it was a zombie about to eat a cameraman. What I'd like for you to now do is I'd like you to go to your personal narrative and try to add brushstroke 1 to your personal narrative. You may do this as many times as you can throughout your narrative. Here's an example of the narrative that I read to you earlier in this unit, and here's how I applied the brushstroke. My original sentence was, after endless miles of running, we finally reached the park. By applying brushstroke 1 to my writing, this is the sentence that I got. Panting, gasping, and sweating, we finally reached the park after endless miles of running. Please go ahead and try to add brushstroke 1 to your narrative. When you've done that, please continue this video. All right, in your writer's notebook, please write brushstroke 2. Here's a boring sentence. It says, the mountain climber edged along the cliff. There's really not much going on here. So here we are painting with brushstroke 2. Feet trembling on the snow-covered rocks. The mountain climber edged along the cliff. Here's another example. Hands shaking, feet trembling, the mountain climber edged along the cliff. Well, what does brushstroke 2 add to our sentence? Here you're going to see that we still have that verb, the thing that our mountain climbers doing with that ing, so trembling or shaking. But now what we're doing is we're adding a noun in front of that. So, for example, in the first sentence, what is trembling? Well, his feet are trembling. In the second sentence, what is shaking? His hands are shaking. And what is trembling? His feet are trembling. So what I'd like for you to do now is I'd like you in your writer's notebook to rewrite your cat sentence using brushstroke 2. So again, here are examples below. Once you've written your sentence, please go ahead and restart the video. Here is an example of a cat sentence using brushstroke 2. Legs crouching and eyes darting, the cat attacked its prey. Another example would be ears flattened, mouth wide open, sharp teeth baring. The cat acted as though it was a zombie about to eat a cameraman. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to go to your personal narrative and try to add this brushstroke to it. Here's an example of where I added mine. With each successful step, my confidence grew and I began to dismiss the idea of it being an obstacle in my mind as I imagined my sweet victory. What I changed this to is I simply wrote, feet trembling and mind racing. I began to dismiss the idea of it being an obstacle in my mind, and my confidence grew as I could imagine my sweet victory. Now I'd like for you to go ahead and write brushstroke 3 in your writer's notebook. Here's a boring sentence. The raccoon enjoys eating turtle eggs. When I apply brushstroke 3 to this sentence, this is what it looks like. The raccoon, a scavenger, enjoys eating turtle eggs. Or the raccoon, a midnight scavenger who roams lake shorelines in search of food, enjoys eating turtle eggs. What does this brushstroke add to our sentence? It simply further describes the noun. Some of you may recognize this as an appositive. Please also notice that when we use this description here in our noun, that we have to put commas around it. So here, if we look, you're always going to have commas around the appositive because you could take it out of the sentence. It doesn't have to be there. It's simply an added detail, but that added detail is going to add a lot to our writing. So what I'd like for you to do in your writer's notebook is I want you to rewrite your cat sentence using brushstroke 3. Again, there are examples below on what brushstroke 3 looks like. Please restart the video once you've done this. All right, so if we look here at our cat sentence, we have the cat, a devilish animal, attacked its prey. And then the cat, an animal mad with hunger, acted as though it was a zombie about to eat a cameraman. Looking at your sentence, did you put commas around your appositive? If not, please make sure that you add them. All right, now what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to try to go to your personal narrative and add appositives into yours. Here you'll notice where I added my appositive. I wrote, since she was preoccupied, I glanced over at Danny, hoping my mother would not become suspicious about the day's upcoming events. So I added my appositive and I wrote, since she was preoccupied, I glanced over at Danny, my partner in crime, hoping my mother would not become suspicious about the day's upcoming events. So now go to your personal narrative and try to add as many appositives as you can. Again, making sure that you're putting those commas in your, around your appositive. All right, go back to your writer's notebook. Please write brushstroke 4. Here's our boring sentence. The large, red-eyed, angry bull charged the intruder. It's not too bad. There's some descriptive language here. But here's what brushstroke 4 will do for our writing. The large bull, red-eyed and angry, charged the intruder. Well, what does brushstroke 4 add to our sentence? Usually, we typically give our adjectives before we give the noun that it's describing. But by using brushstroke 4, you first give the noun, then you describe it using adjectives. So instead of saying the red-eyed, angry bull, you're going to say the bull, red-eyed, and angry. Makes our writing seem a little bit stronger. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to rewrite your cat sentence using brushstroke 4. Again, there is an example below. When you've done that, please restart your video. Here is an example of brushstroke 4 with our cat sentence. It says the cat, stalking and pouncing, attacked its prey. And then the cat, starved and angry, acted as though it was a zombie about to eat a cameraman. You may notice that this looks very similar to an appositive, but what we're simply doing here is we're giving adjectives to describe the cat instead of renaming it, like we would with an appositive. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to try to find this in your, try to add this brushstroke to your personal narrative. Here you're going to see that I had to kind of mess around with a few sentences to be able to add this to my narrative. I wrote, the humid air was warm on our faces as we raced to Sarah and Caroline's house, our best friends. Our foreheads glistened with tiny beads of sweat when we finally reached the girls' driveway. Here I wrote, the air, humid and warm, made our foreheads glisten with tiny beads of sweat as we raced to Sarah's and Caroline's house, our best friends. A perfect day for climbing. So feel free to kind of mess around with a few of your sentences in your narratives. All right, and then finally, brushstroke 5. Please go ahead and write down brushstroke 5 in your writer's notebook. Here's our boring sentence. The runaway horse was ridden into town by a blonde-haired beauty. Here, if we paint with brushstroke 5, we're going to write the blonde-haired beauty rode the runaway horse into town. So what does this brushstroke add to our sentence? Instead of having a passive voice, was ridden, meaning it already happened, with this brushstroke, we're giving an active voice. We're saying that she rode the runaway horse, so it seems like it's actually happening right now. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like you in your writer's notebook to rewrite your cat sentence using brushstroke 5. Pause the video and restart it once you've written your sentence. Here's an example of active voice with our cat sentences. Stalking, pouncing, preying, the cat attacked its prey, flattening its ears, opening its wide mouth, baring its sharp teeth. The cat acted as though it was a zombie about to eat a cameraman. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to try to do this in your personal narrative. Here's my example. But in reality, she'd been watching each move since the moment I came flying across the kitchen to the table. I changed this to, but in reality, she watched each move since the moment I flew across the kitchen to the table. So here I'm not using such a passive voice, but I'm using a little bit more of an active voice. What you now need to do is you need to come on over and you're going to confer with your teacher about the brush strokes that you added to your personal narrative. Feel free to watch this video again and try to kind of play around a little bit more with your writing.